Summer can be such a tricky time for parents of differently wired kids. Finding ways to keep kids active and learning over the break, whether at home or on vacation, it can be hard. Fat Brain Toys is a family-run business that has been curating and creating quality toys, games, and gifts that both entertain and educate for more than 20 years. Almost all of Fat Brain's toys and games are screen-free, and what I love about them is they encourage kids to get creative and explore the world around them through open-ended play. I'm especially drawn to this really cool product called Mr. Bendy. It's a sturdy yet bendable figure with posable arms, legs, and eyes. It comes with wax bendy sticks that you can use to turn Mr. Bendy into really anything, an astronaut, a guitarist, a pirate. And you can play it as a game with the sand timer and game tokens, or you can set those aside and just engage in open-ended play to explore things like spatial reasoning, creativity, and observation skills. I think what I love most about Mr. Bendy is it offers an easy and fun way for parents to connect with and support their neurodivergent kids in exploring social and emotional learning. Also, you know that I love a mission-driven company. Well, Fat Brain Toys is made up of families who want to make life better for other families. It was founded out of the desire of two parents to provide better play experiences for their kids, so their aim is to support you in doing the same. Fat Brain is a new sponsor of Tilt Parenting, and they've put together a collection of toys for our families. Go to www.fatbraintoys.com/tilt to get 10% off all the items in the Tilt collection when you use the code TILT at checkout, and find out for yourself why Fat Brain Toys is a smarter way to play. I'm Debbie Reber, and welcome to Tilt Parenting, a podcast featuring interviews and conversations aimed at inspiring, informing, and supporting parents raising differently wired kids. I get a lot of questions from listeners looking for help navigating complex situations with their kids. So in this new mini episode format, I'll be answering listener questions, sometimes all on my own, sometimes with one of the parent coaches from the Differently Wired Club, and sometimes with an author or expert who's become a trusted resource. Think of these bite-sized, short and sweet parent-leaning episodes as a quick check-in. One question, one answer, featuring strategies, tips, or reframes that can support you in your parenting world. To submit a question for a parent-lean-in episode, just go to tiltparenting.com/lean-in. That's tiltparenting.com/LEANIN. All right, here's today's episode. Hey, everybody. Joining me for today's Parent Lean-In episode is educator and friend of the pod, Zach Morris of Alive at Learn. Zach specializes in working with parents and young adults who are navigating the complex dynamics of neurodivergent experience. Zach's uniquely equipped to serve families with profiles of autism, especially PDA, families that are navigating trauma, and families who are needing to heal and repair relationships. He's also a parent coach in my Differently Wired Club. I think he's the perfect person to join me for this particular question, so I'm excited to get into it. But hey, Zach, happy to have you here.
Yeah. Hey, Debbie. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I think we should just get into it.
Yes.
This is a juicy question. Okay. How can I help my child be more flexible and less argumentative? My 8-year-old child has ADHD, autism, and is gifted. He thrives on structure, routine, and schedules. He does well in school, but home life is less than ideal. Every time we go on a school break, such as Thanksgiving, summer break, everything unravels. Everything has to go his way for him to be happy, and he melts down over the slightest disappointment. Telling him no seems to create a stress response, as does encouraging him to take deep breaths, go to his room, or do any sort of calming activity. When I research emotional regulation, I often see tips like deep breathing and calm spaces. Unfortunately, these only seem to aggravate my son more and have the opposite effect. I believe that his extreme rigidity is his way of controlling his environment and making it predictable. While I understand his need to do that, I'm left at a loss of how to help him. How can you teach the skill of flexibility? Good question, Zach. And
yes.
I'm going to hand the baton over to you.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I think probably resonates for a lot of families.
Yeah.
And the first thing I want to say is that I see flexibility as sort of a manifestation of being in our social engagement system. And what I mean by that is that sort of part of our nervous system where I'm in my window of tolerance. I can attune to people in some way. I can be flexible. I can think abstractly, right? Like all of these things. And And in order to be in that part of our nervous system, right, this social engagement part of our nervous system, we have to have a certain sense of safety online, right? And if we look at flexibility sort of through that lens, I think it becomes sort of less about teaching flexibility and more about helping our children experience more moments of co-regulation and more moments of being in their social engagement system. And to develop a sense of like when I'm leaving that space, when I'm leaving that socially engaged space, and therefore being able to develop some skills to be able to get back to that, right? But this is all going to start from that co-regulation, right? So when we think of even, the example of asking them to take some deep breaths or inviting them to take some deep breaths, inviting them to go, take some space in their room, things like that. What I'm hearing is this is leading to co-activation, actually, right? So what can happen in moments is we can either co-activate or we can co-regulate, right? And so this is maybe a moment where that co-activation is happening. The activation's already online. I'm offering sort of a strategy. Kiddos gets activated. That probably activates my system a little bit, right? We're co-activating right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would guess that maybe doesn't feel safe enough or is leading to enough co-regulation for me to go do those things, for me to do those things on my own, for me to take the deep breaths, for me to go take the space, right? That's the self-regulation. That's very much the land of self-regulation. And self-regulation is going to be more accessible once I have a lot more experience in the realm of co-regulation, right? And so we could talk about all kinds of different co-regulation strategies, right? This is definitely like a land for potentially more research and exploration for, the person asking this question, other people sort of involved. But this might be where I might not have access to getting this person to go take their deep breaths, but I might be able to get this person to share in a snack with me and us also both share in a snack or maybe cuddle while I rub their back, possibly, right? They might not at all. That might co-activate them, right? So I'm not trying to give these as you should do these strategies, right? But this idea of how am I gonna sort of offer something that allows that system to come down? Maybe that's me creating a certain level of distance and space between us and just listening and me trying to enter some breath in my own system, right? And maybe that sort of slowly invites my kiddo into this. Sometimes we have to match our kiddo's energy at times, right? Sometimes maybe our kiddo's having bigger energy or they're, talking very passionately about something. And sometimes if I come in super calm or I try to get them to breathe, that can actually co-activate because it's why are you so calm? Why aren't you? Right. So sometimes the co-regulation, I almost have to match it so we could come down together. That's another aspect of this at times. Right. So I really just think about the co-regulation piece. And I think about to access flexibility is going to come from this place of social engagement and what's just giving me more time so that I literally am just building memory in my body of what it feels like to be in that space where I am more flexible.
Oh gosh. Okay. So much good stuff. I'm going to share my thoughts right after a quick break. There are a lot of moving pieces and big transitions happening in my world, and I'm finding myself really relying on my routines these days. Because when there are so many changes happening that are beyond my control, consistency in a few aspects of my life has been absolutely critical. That's one of the reasons why I like Ritual's Symbiotic Plus, a 3-in-1 supplement with clinically studied prebiotics, probiotics, and a postbiotic to support a balanced gut microbiome, as it's become a regular part of my morning routine. One minty capsule first thing while sitting down with my laptop, and I can get on with my day knowing that I'm doing something just for me and my well-being. And the capsule itself is a delayed release, which helps it survive the harsh conditions of the upper GI tract for delivery to the colon, which is exactly where we want it to go. But there's a lot more I like about Ritual too. As a company, they're committed to sustainability, using scientific tools to select lower carbon packaging, prioritize sustainably sourced ingredients, and set ambitious climate goals. And they're a female-founded B Corp, meaning they are holding themselves accountable long-term to not only think about their company's financial health, but also the health of people and our planet. I love all of that. There's no more shame in your gut game. Synbiotic Plus and Ritual are here to celebrate, not hide your insides. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/tilt. Start Ritual or add Synbiotic Plus to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/tilt for 25% off. As a longtime runner, hydration is something I've always had to consider, especially in the hot, humid summers of New York. But staying hydrated is important for everyone, and it's not just about drinking water. Being optimally hydrated means optimizing your body's fluid ratios, including electrolytes. In fact, electrolyte deficiency or imbalance can cause headaches, cramps, fatigue, brain fog, and weakness. Element is a zero-sugar electrolyte drink mix designed for better hydration. Each pack provides a strong dose of electrolytes without any sugar or artificial colors or any other dodgy ingredients. And while Element is found in enthusiastic community in everyone from Olympic athletes to special forces to functional nutrition experts, it's also perfect for moms, your everyday exercise enthusiasts like me, folks who are fasting or those following keto, low-carb, whole food diets, really anyone on a mission to restore health through hydration. Element's formula was created with a science-backed electrolyte ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium. And again, no sugar. And because you know I'm a researcher, I wanted to better understand the benefits of having optimal electrolyte levels, and there are so many, including reducing muscle cramps, promoting better sleep, and supporting better digestion, just to name a few. Get your free Element sample pack with any purchase at drinklmnt.com/tilt. Also, try the new Element Sparkling, a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling electrolyte water. Hey there, it's Debbie. I love making this show and sharing conversations about how to support our awesome neurodivergent kids. I've seen how even one little insight from an interview can spark a big shift in daily life. But I know that raising complex kids can be messy and lonely. And just when we think we figured it out, something comes up that boots us right back to feeling overwhelmed and stuck. That's why I've poured everything into creating a way for parents like us navigating complex parenting journeys to join together and chart a path that feels positive, hopeful, and doable. It's the brand new Differently Wired Club experience. In the club, you'll get personal support from me and other seasoned parent coaches, 6 live calls every month where you can connect and get your personal questions answered, the opportunity to learn directly from authors and experts like I have on this show, monthly themes for getting specific and tactical, an exclusive private podcast feed, and the best, most generous community of parents. Seriously, these folks show up for themselves and each other, and that right there is really everything, because it's a daily reminder that we're not alone. Our kids aren't broken, and we have totally got this. The recently rebooted Differently Wired Club is on a brand new platform with its very own iOS and Android app. It is such a great space. However you learn, whatever your style, no matter the ages, genders, and neurodivergent profile of your children, the Differently Wired Club can help you cultivate the positive shifts you're hoping for. Join us today by going to tiltparenting.com/club. That's tiltparenting.com/club. I hope to see you on the inside. So there's so much that you shared that I kind of want to dive into, but even starting with this idea about kind of giving our kids practice of spending time regulated. That's kind of where I went when I first read this question. I was thinking about, what Dr. Mona Delahooke talks about or refers to as a sturdy nervous system platform. And we know that neurodivergent kids have less sturdy platforms. And so how can we find ways to help our kids spend more time proactively in a regulated state? So of course that involves things like, making sure they're sleeping well, making sure they're moving their bodies enough, that they have that time outdoors or in nature, time to be silly, time to play, things that soothe your kid's sensory system. So if you know what really helps them stay calm, like stuffies or weighted blankets, those kinds of things, listening to book on tape while doing Legos, trying to make sure that you're building in lots of opportunity for calm, regulated time, so that the nervous system can enjoy that break from being more escalated. So that's one thing that I thought about. And then, yes, like that co-regulation and kind of lending our kids our nervous systems. The thing about that is we have to really take care of ourselves, right? I wrote about this also in Differently Wired when I distinctly remember an engagement I had with Asher when he was like 9 and was really dysregulated. And then I was with a very raised voice, demanding that he do his calming strategies before I stormed out of the room. And that's before I really understood the power of the way our nervous systems were communicating with each other. So that was a big fail. We got there eventually, but I think that is a really big piece of this in the moment. We want to help our kids feel safe and seen and soothed and secure once they have kind of flipped their lid, as Dan Siegel says. And those are the 4 S's from Tina Payne Bryson and Dan Siegel's book, The Power of Showing Up: safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And in the moment, when you're saying no creates a stress response, and he's having these meltdowns in the moment, you are going to want to be that very calm presence, in addition to co-regulating and taking care of yourself and trying to infect their nervous system in a positive way with yours, making sure that your child feels really validated, for the big feelings, and empathize with them, saying what you observed. I learned this from my friend Simone Davis, who wrote The Montessori Child, just saying very calmly, "Oh, you're so disappointed right now. I can see that you're really upset. That's really hard. I'm just going to sit here with you while you're upset. Yeah. I'm sorry you're having those big feelings."
And that, and it makes sense that you're having the experience you're having, right? That's what you were sort of saying. And I think about Bruce Perry's work, around some of this regulation. And that's, he talks about regulate, relate, reason, right? And that sort of chain of things. And I think what we're talking about right now is this relating place. And I think the relating place is actually an easy space to miss. I know I miss it all the time as a parent, right? But this place where I'm that makes so much sense. That you're having the experience you're having, right? We don't just go from regulating to now reasoning about it. It's can we also relate around the fact that was, of course that was happening. Of course, of course you don't want to, of course, of course this is hard to hear, right? So that it can be normalized also. And I don't have to have shame or confusion or in addition to whatever other undesirable experience I'm already having.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's so good. I want to mention one other thing that came up for me with this, and on the proactive front. So we've been talking about in the moment how to navigate this, but I also just want to say that, it seems like it's kind of predictable when the stuff's going to happen. The person who wrote the question and said it's on a school break, it's things unravel. So I've done an episode, I'll put it in the show notes page. Maybe it was with Margaret Webb, I believe, on how to survive and thrive over summer break. I've talked about holiday break and disruptions in schedules. So there are a lot of strategies for how to proactively plan and collaborate with your child so that expectations can be set. What is going to happen over the break? What is this going to look like? What are you going to have days built in that are just about the things you love to do? Do we have plans as a family that are going to mean this routine is off? So get very granular and proactive in planning that for your kids. And then also you can be, per Dr. Ross Greene's collaborative and proactive solutions, if you know kind of the underlying lagging skills, as he says, and the needs that aren't being met or the problems that haven't been solved yet, collaborating with your child to come up with some strategies for when those, you hit those bumps in the road. So I think there's a lot we can do in the moment, but then also being proactive and getting curious about, okay, how might we make this go a little more smoothly in the future, can also help and help you feel less, reactive, and you'll be better poised to respond in the moment.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add?
Just kind of, going off of what you were saying, might be able to, if those routines and structures, we find to be really aid in the safety, aid in, right, all of this experience, we might be able to kind of build some more of that kind of on the front end before that's coming up, right, in collaboration with our kiddo. Not that it then solves everything and all of a sudden we're doing that, right? But as we can also like engage our child around them getting to know what they need to sort of stay in that place of social engagement and flexibility, right, and all of this. And I just wanted to kind of come back and reiterate this like flexibility being connected to our social engagement system. And I also think about flexibility as a part of our exploratory system, right? Like when we're flexible, we're exploring something, like we're entertaining something that's different than what we were originally entertained, right? This is a very exploratory, and an exploration is often coming from a place of safety. Right. So this just maybe allows us to get super curious around what really fosters safety for this person.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm going to add one last thing and then we'll say goodbye. And that is just, we're talking about an 8-year-old here. And of course, listeners have kids of all different ages, but I just want to, as I do often, remind us that we are playing the long game here. And there unfortunately are no quick fixes to this, that we're building skills. We know our kids are on their own unique timeline. And so skill building can take a lot longer. It can look a lot messier. And so if we can just remember that this isn't something that's going to be solved overnight, but investing in this, what we've been talking about today, is absolutely going to pay off over time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Tilt Parenting Podcast. To learn more about the resources mentioned in this Parent Lean In episode, go to the extensive show notes page on tiltparenting.com. To submit a question for a future episode, just go to tiltparenting.com/leanin. That's tiltparenting.com/LEANIN. If you're looking for personal support from me and connection with the phenomenal community of parents raising neurodivergent kids, join us in the recently rebooted Differently Wired Club. The new Differently Wired Club can help you cultivate the positive shifts you're hoping for. Go to tiltparenting.com/club to learn more. The Tilt Parenting Podcast is hosted by me, Debbie Reber, author of Differently Wired and the founder of Tilt Parenting. To support this show, please join my Patreon campaign, where you can set up a small monthly contribution. Just go to patreon.com/tiltparenting to learn more. If you want to follow Tilt on social media, go to @tiltparenting on Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, please take a minute to leave a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps this show stay visible so others can find it more easily. And that's all for this week. Stay safe, stay well, and take good care. And for more information about any of the parenting resources Tilt offers, visit tiltparenting.com.
I'd like to introduce you to the Minimalist Moms podcast. It's hard enough being a mom, and the last thing you need is stress from too much stuff and an overcrowded schedule. For too long, I lived with the mindset that bigger was better, and the more I added to my life, instead of feeling better, I felt overwhelmed. It was time for a radical new mindset. Less is more. I'm not into extremes. I didn't throw everything away. My brand of minimalism is more about adding than subtracting. Get rid of the excess to make room for what you love. In other words, it's about living life with purpose. I hope you'll listen in, and my guest and myself can inspire you to think more and do with less. The Minimalist Moms podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts.